pricey. And you can wear those continuously, and people are really, here he comes. Hi, Dr. Tom.
Hello, hello.
We were right in the middle.
I could hear you answering the question, but I couldn't get on. And so Anne said that I had the wrong link. So she sent me the right link, and she sent it to me on WhatsApp, but I didn't have WhatsApp open on my computer. So I had to go back to applications and open WhatsApp and then get here. So I'm really happy to be here. And it's just a good example of how there's so many different ways of connecting. I'm not sure how to make nice on that one. I'll just stop here. It's stressful, you know, when it on. So please continue, Michelle. You were answering that question, and so please.
Yeah,
continue.
that's a perfect example of that cortisol. I mean, we've all felt that. Like Dr. Tom's trying to be here because he loves this time with all of you. And so that's a cortisol surge, those stress hormones pulsing through the body. And we get those in the middle of the night. And that's strongly associated with blood sugar. And when we have these blood sugar dips, I have a friend right now who's wearing one of these continuous glucose monitors, and she's swinging from hypoglycemia, where her blood sugar is dropping seriously low, and then she's swinging hyperglycemia. And you would think that her diet is pristine, right? But there's all this stuff going on right now in our society, right? That's creating all of this stress. And then maybe this diet that we think is pristine for us maybe isn't perfect for us right now. So blood sugar dysregulation can be causing a lot of sleep dysregulation. And there's just so much that can be going on with that. What else, Dr. Tom, do you want to add that could be happening with?
Well, I think, you know, one of the clues is that it's at the same time. And you started off your answer by going into the concept of the horary clock, H-O-R-A-R-Y, horary clock, which is a concept in Eastern medicine that of the 12 acupuncture meridians, each one runs for 2 hours. And the one that runs between 2 and 4 a.m. is the liver. So the first thing I always look at when someone has symptoms at a specific time is look and see if there's any general indicators that that system may need some help. And so for the liver, there's a really easy thing called a liver blemish that you can check for so easily. And the way it works is, let me see if this shows here. Well, not really. Let me see. Okay, not so much. Let's see. Okay. When I press on my forearm, when I take my finger away, you'll see that there's a whitish fingerprint that's left there for a moment or two. And then the skin, the blood skin, and revascularizes the skin. And so the fingerprint is gone. The blemish is gone. And you do that in the area of the back between your shoulder blades. I do 3 different areas on each side. You know, the shoulder blade's about this big on the back side there. So I'll go at the top, I push it in, and then on the other side, I push it in. And then I'll go down to the middle and then down to the bottom. And you're counting to see how long does it take for the blemish to go away. And it should take 1 second, maybe 2. Most common is a second or 2. And oh, just a minute, we've got a visitor. Yes, come on. Yeah. He was outside running around, and he's got his shoes on, and he's good to go here. And he was at the door knocking, so here's Gio.
Hi, Gio. Hi, cute boy. How are you? Do you know how to run now?
Yeah. He's got 1 speed, and he runs. That's it.
And you run? Look at what I have. Look at this.
Doggy.
Is that a puppy? Is that a puppy? What is a puppy?
You have to bear with us, everybody. This is our fun time of the month, and so we diverse a little. We'll get to the questions.
Puppy wants to
but
wave
this
to
is-
Gio.
Yeah.
Say hi, Gio. Hi, Gio.
Woof.
Woof. Woof.
Yeah. 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 Okay. Okay. So we'll go back to the question now. So you press on that area between the shoulder blades, 6 different spots, and you count how long does it take for the skin to revascularize. 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, gone. 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, gone. 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000, 5, 1,000, gone. It should take a second, maybe 2, to revascularize that area. Why that area? Your liver is the oil filter in your body. And anything you eat, the first and the only place it can go, it comes down the tube of the digestive tract, and then it gets through into the bloodstream, and all of that blood goes to the liver. It can't go anywhere else because your liver is an oil filter. And if you dropped an apple on the ground and you wiped it off and you ate it and there's some bug on it or some dirt or something, your liver's going to filter that. Or if you're eating the wrong kind of foods like deep fried foods, saturated fats, transformed fatty acids, your liver's going to grab all that crap as best as it can. Or if you're eating processed meats that have a lot of chemicals, nitrates and nitrites on them, your liver's going to grab as much of that stuff as it can. And if you think of your liver like a beehive that's got thousands of little cells, and each cell is lined with cheesecloth, so as the blood goes through these thousands of cells, the cheesecloth are the filters that grab whatever's in the blood that shouldn't be there. And then it gets flushed out in the bile, back down into the gut, and eliminated with your bowel movements. That's how it's supposed to work. But if you've got a congested liver, a dirty oil filter, then your blood gets dirty. Your blood gets all full of crud, right? And you got to clean the oil filter. Well, how do you know if you have a clean oil filter or not? You do a liver blemish, because the first place the blood goes when it comes out of the liver is right past that area in the back. So if the blood coming out of the liver is a little sluggish, if it's backed up a little bit, then the blood flow in that area between your shoulder blades is going to be sluggish. It's not going to revascularize as quickly as it should. Simple little test, not highly diagnostic of anything, but it just suggests, looks like you got a dirty oil filter. So let's talk about detox. And then you go down that whole path of detoxification. And we always recommend Dr. Joe Pizzorno's book, The Toxic Effect, because he talks about how you have to prepare to detox before you begin detoxing. Lots of people out there are all gung-ho on detox and just, yeah, take these products and go detox. And many people get sick because you can't, if you try to flush out all this stuff that's accumulated over years and you don't have the elimination system working efficiently enough, you can get sick. And we used to think it was a healing crisis back in the 80s when it happened. Well, it's a healing crisis. You'll be fine. No, it's not a healing crisis. We were just too aggressive. And what we have here is a patient that is a pathological detoxifier. They can't detoxify very well. So you have to figure out where's the backup in detoxifying and fix that before you start a detoxification, getting rid of heavy metals, taking the amalgams out of your teeth, whatever it is that needs to be worked on, you have to prepare your body first. So if you're waking up between 2 and 3 a.m., I fully agree with Michelle. there's so many things it can be, but the first thing is because of the time, I would have your spouse or a friend, do it to each other, just push on the back and, well, how hard do you push? It does, just push, hold it for a second or two and let go. 1,000, gone. But some people, I've had patients that are at 8 seconds, and they're really sick. They've got autoimmune diseases or some other severe complications as a result. That'll do it on that one. Michelle, anything else you want to add to that?
It's great because it's free and they can do it as soon as the Q&A is over.
Great.
Okay, next question's from Karen. What do I do when I have had serious issues with my stomach for years after antibiotics, but now I seem to have an infection or something else? Stool test showed too many good bacteria, and no one seems to know how to diagnose or how to treat. Burning, nausea, pain, and complete panic that I can't even control. I have been on yet more antibiotics, Candibactin AR and BR, and now I'm so sick, I feel like every day is my last. Need hospital or ER, but they'll only give me antibiotics or pain meds, so it just upsets my stomach more.
Well, that's a much more serious condition than waking up first thing in the morning. You really would benefit from working with someone that can help you get the big picture, look back in the history to see what set you up and what has progressed to this point of being so difficult to address, that you didn't just wake up with this. You may have started with the symptoms fairly quickly, but there had to be this whole buildup beforehand. In my book, The Autoimmune Fix, what we talk about is the spectrum of autoimmunity, which means that there are problems going on for years, but before you ever have a symptom. And then you try and deal with the symptom, but you don't know the problem that's been accumulating. We now know that for many of the autoimmune diseases, that elevated antibodies are killing off that tissue, like your brain and MS, or your thyroid with Hashimoto'S. These elevated antibodies are going on, well, Hashimoto'S, it's 7 years before you ever have a symptom. Health and Human Services came out with a document 2 years ago for Alzheimer's that there's 27 years of brain deterioration before you ever have a symptom, before you notice that, where did I park my car in the parking lot? Or before you notice you're losing your sense of smell, or 27 years of a problem that's accumulating. And in your situation, it's the same thing. Something's been accumulating for quite a while, and you need a practitioner that can help you walk the walk of your history, your health history, and just your history, to see what set you up for this. And I would strongly recommend you work with Michelle. Michelle is just the best at this. And I don't know anyone that can hold your hand so gently yet firmly and not let go, right? So, but you need someone to guide you, because when you talk about the anxiety that's happening, that's your microbiome. And too many good guys, I'm not quite sure I buy that interpretation. That would be extremely unusual. You have too many beneficial bacteria. Should we all be so lucky to have too many beneficial bacteria? So, but consider working with a senior functional medicine practitioner.
Yeah, Karen, I just want to give you hope that the human body has an amazing capacity to heal, but you need someone to guide you. And it sounds like you're doing your best, but I want to give you hope. Okay, next question is from Michael. What are common factors related to hair loss in men in their early 40s? Any protocols to address this issue?
Oh, I'm just smiling because that's a case study that I've used for the last 3 or 4 years in some of my lectures. 43-year-old guy just started losing his hair. And as a matter of fact, Michelle, how about if you talk for a minute? I'm going to bring that up. And Anne, would you allow me to share a screen, please? I'm going to bring that study up. It's just such a fun study to talk about. Let's see if I can bring it up here. And Michelle, can you just keep?
Yeah, so there's multiple reasons. So it's important to get to the root cause of your hair loss. So I would want to see a full thyroid panel to rule out thyroid. I think there's so many people right now that are finding a connection with COVID, having had COVID and having hair loss, which is definitely reversible. They're just having to recover from that inflammation of the COVID. Alopecia, which seems to have made the news recently, can cause hair loss. I'm so interested to hear your case study. Have I heard it before, Dr. Tom?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure, and I'm going to bring it up here in just a moment. I have to scroll through here. I've got this one's got 1,100 slides, so but I can scroll through them pretty quickly. I'll recognize the picture when it pops up. And because it's such a good case, because it's kind of jaw-dropping when you see where the problem was for this person. Marzi, can you help me get on my phone on Facebook so I can say hello to people who've signed in? Gio has a new thing he does is he's pushing his stroller around. So he's here now in the room with the stroller. Here we go. Okay, that's the case study. Now, how do I get back on, I don't know what happened to my screen here to find you, Michelle. I can't.
It's probably behind. If you click the little icon for Zoom, it'll come back.
Oh, there we go. Okay, good. Thank you. That did it. Right. Now I know for the future to click the icon. And I'm going to click share screen. Okay. Let's see if this does it. This is unusual. Okay, I'm going to share screen and allow Zoom to share your screen. Open system preferences. Oh, okay. So I have to allow Zoom to share. I had to upgrade my Microsoft recently. Something was wrong, and so it turned out I was 4 updates behind. I don't know. It's just changed everything. Michelle, let's go to the next question, and I'll look for this.
Okay. I just want to say for a full thyroid panel, most of the time they only run TSH, and you really want TSH, at least TSH, free T3, reverse T3, both thyroid hormones, at least that as a minimum. But you need more than just TSH. That's just the tip of the thyroid iceberg, so to speak. Okay, so while you are pulling that up, is fasting safe for someone who has a sluggish thyroid? I've been doing time-restricted eating and have felt better in general, but just want to make sure it's okay for me. TSH is 3.21. Best tips for taking GS Immunopro powder. I just started taking it and want to get the most out of it. Thank you. So there's multiple questions in there. So let's start with, is fasting safe to do for someone who has a sluggish thyroid?
Yes, it is. And you just need to monitor yourself. There's a few things you'd want to monitor. For example, your pulse. What's your pulse normally? You'd want to have an idea. Well, my pulse averages about 62 during the day, and it might go up to 78 or whatever your range is, but just know where your pulse is at. That's one of the general indicators of thyroid function overall. Also temperature. Do you normally get cold? If you don't, and now all of a sudden you're getting cold, your thyroid may not be working adequately. But it depends on what kind of fasting you're talking about. If you're talking about, I'm becoming a very strong advocate now of Prolon, and we'll put a link in here for Prolon, and we're going to talk about it sometime in the next month or two. We're going to have a guest on who's going to, an expert on that, actually the chief science officer for El Nutra, the company that talks about the Prolon. Prolon is a 5-day simulated fast where you're eating foods, but they're structured in such a way, they're all very healthy foods, but it's structured so that your body thinks you're fasting. And yet you're getting a little bit of nutrition, enough to keep you going, enough to keep your blood sugar stable. And the results are just spectacular. And we'll talk more about that when we go forward. But yeah, I don't see any problem. As long as you're monitoring your thyroid and as long as you don't have any thyroid disease right now, that should be fine for you. Michelle, is there anything you want to add to that?
Yes. So depends on, it says anonymous. I don't know if you're a female or a male, and most of the fasting, now I agree, Prolong is excellent. And I think it works well for most people. For like intermittent fasting, most of the research is done on men. And I find that women who have severe adrenal fatigue don't do well for that. So doing testing for that, and there's a real strong connection between adrenal fatigue and thyroid dysregulation. So I just need more information. I would want to do a little bit more testing to find out if that's something that is going to work well for you. I would want to know about your blood sugar regulation, because there's strong connection between that and adrenal health. So it's hard to know. I would say your thyroid is a little bit sluggish at 3.21. I would want to see it more between the 1 and 2 ratio, but I don't know enough about your thyroid with just that TSH. I'd want to see your reverse T3, your free T3, your thyroid antibodies to really know more about your thyroid health. So it's a great question. I wish it was an easier answer, but I just think that with this whole fasting too, like we eat, a lot of people are waiting to eat until later in the day. They have their blood sugar just crashes out from underneath them. And some people need to eat within an hour of waking up. And they have this hypoglycemia, and then they crave sugar or something sweet or coffee. And then they're eating late at night. They're eating in this window between like noon and 8 p.m. And then they wonder why their sleep is all messed up, right? So maybe if we ate like within an hour of waking up, we woke up at 7, we ate like between 8 and 4. But again, like it's not as simple as there's just this one right diet for everyone. I just really want to see people's labs to really know what's right for them. But I know that it's getting a lot of press. It's getting a lot of publicity, and people are writing books. And I'm just seeing a lot of people really harm themselves by doing it wrong.
Michelle is absolutely right that we think there is the right way to address whatever the concern is, but it always depends on your metabolism, your body's threshold. And if your body is holding a lot of toxic chemicals, for example, and you don't know, we had a guy recently that came through who had seen a number of doctors, but a young man losing his brain function, couldn't figure out what's wrong, and went to some very famous clinics. And it turned out that, and we picked it up really quickly once we got the whole history. Born and raised on a cotton farm in the South and loaded with toxic chemicals, loaded. and you just Google the name of the toxic chemical and brain function, here come the studies, you know? And so for that person, his system was so sensitive, it was, of course, affecting his brain function, which is why he went to so many doctors, but it affects many other aspects of how your body functions. So Michelle's absolutely right. In terms of fasting, for some people, it's the best thing you can do. It can be really helpful. For others, you know, it's going to take you a while before your body's ready to do that. Let's baby step you forward in that direction. Okay, I've got this thing working now, so I'm going to share my screen. And let's just go ahead and bring this one up. And let's put it right here. And we'll get the chat out of the way for the moment. So this is the case of an autoimmune disease where a 43-year-old man came in to see these doctors because patchy hair loss in his scalp and his beard. And this is what it looked like when he came in. And I point to this because that's alopecia. Doctors normally don't think about the absence of stubble on parts of the chin as alopecia, but it is. And, you know, his dermatologist had given him some steroid creams. They also gave him a depressant for psychiatric support, but nothing was working. And he came to see these doctors, and he had a history of upset stomach. And so they said, well, let's just check you for a Helicobacter infection. That's a very common bacterial infection. The studies say 50 to 90% of the world, that means you and I, have Helicobacter infections. And of course, this guy was highly positive. You see his IgG antibody supposed to be below 9, and he was at 52. So they gave him the medication to get rid of the Helicobacter. And they said, stop all that other stuff you were taking. You know, it's not working. Just stop all of that. And they checked him again in 6 weeks after the antibiotic treatment, and the Helicobacter did it. Well, here's how his hair looked after 4 weeks while he was still taking the antibiotics. Here it is at 8 weeks. Here it is at 16 weeks. Here it is at 44 weeks. And the only thing they did was get rid of a bacterial infection. And this is what it looked like in the paper in the World Journal of Gastroenterology. And I just took them out individually for the slides. So that is an example of a bacterial infection triggering an autoimmune mechanism. Foods can trigger an autoimmune mechanism. Toxic chemicals can trigger an autoimmune mechanism. Heavy metals can trigger an autoimmune mechanism. So when people say, well, what do I have to take to fix my alopecia? Do you understand that that question is an irrational question from a big picture of how to fix this thing? It's an extremely rational question from the concepts of how the marketing industry of the pharmaceutical industry, how they brainwashed us over the years. We have a problem, what do I take to fix it? And you spend lots of money, and you know the average American is taking so many drugs on a constant basis. So it's a rational way of thinking if you drank the Kool-Aid of how they have trained us since birth. That's a rational question. It's an irrational question when you're looking from a big picture perspective. That is the big picture perspective. You may have a Helicobacter infection. You may have mercury toxicity that can cause alopecia. Just type in gluten and alopecia. Here come the studies that sometimes gluten will cause it. My point is you need a functional medicine practitioner to help identify for you where it's coming from. Now I'm going to do a couple of shout outs here because Mia is in North Wales, UK. Thank you, Mia, for being here. I know it's late for you. We have guests here from London right now, so it's like old home week. Thanks so much for being here. And there was one more I saw. let's see, where is it? Lisbeth is also in the UK. So thank you. Thank you, Lisbeth, for being here, staying up so late for this. Wanda's here, Sheila McCourt's here, Mary's here, Connie's here. Guys, tell us where you're from. It tickles me to hear where you're from. And the list goes on of lots of other people. So thank you so much for everyone for being here. Randall asked the question, what's the cause of shriveled finger, little blood flow in the tips? That is a really good question. That could be a number of things, Randall. It could be a structural problem where there's some problem in the bones of your wrist or your hand, could be, but it easily could be too much lead. It could be a chemical toxicity. Once again, just like the alopecia, there are a number of different triggers that might set that off. You just need to find a functional medicine practitioner that walks with you down the road of your health history to figure out where it's coming from. Michelle, you want to do the next question?
Could be Raynaud's disease. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, this is from Kat. I need to start the elimination diet. I'm told that for 2 to 3 months, I'm to eat only 12 cups of veggies a day. Will I get enough protein from the veggies?
That's a really good question. And I've ever heard of a recommendation like that before. You need more than 12 cups of vegetables a day. You need healthy fats. And as your question is saying, you need some protein. So I'm not sure. Now, the 12 cups, that immediately reminds me of our friend, Dr. Terry Walls. And that's how she treats these soldiers coming back from Afghanistan and the war that have PTSD, and they're just not functional at all. And so she wants them to clean up their diet. So what she tells them is, you eat 12 cups of vegetables a day before you eat any pasta or bread. And then she tells them about gluten-free and all that, but no pasta, no bread, no cookies, nothing until you first had 12 cups of vegetables a day. Now, I fully agree with that kind of a concept because Dr. Walls is leaving room for healthy fats and quality protein. So I'm just not sure I would agree with that particular recommendation. When Marzi and I have been at Swiss Mountain Clinic, and we've been there a number of times, and they're just the best in the world, the very best. They have a Michelin-rated chef who's been there since the day they opened, who just loves to see the results of his work in terms of how people get better. And it's a buffet style of just so many beautiful vegetables, but there's always seeds, and there's always some nuts, and there's gluten-free breads so that people can get some quality fats, and there's avocado, and there's salad dressings that he makes, healthy salad dressings, because you have some fats. Quality fats, and you've got to have some quality protein. So I would not quite agree with that recommendation. Michelle, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, that's concerning to me. For 2 to 3 months, I feel like there's going to be some deficiencies that are going to arise from eating only veggies for
agreed.
that amount of time.
Bonnie asked the question, what's the optimum hemoglobin A1C? And that's really a good question, Bonnie, because I thought it was about 5.5. And I was talking, or below, I was talking to my friend, David Perlmutter, Dr. Perlmutter, recently, and he told me, he sent me the study that showed at 5.5 A1C of 5.5, you're at higher risk of brain deterioration. So somewhere down around 5.1 is a safer zone. I think Dr. Perlmutter says 4.8 to 5.2, if I'm remembering correctly. It's in his new book, Drop Acid. That's the title of his book that just came out. It's a great, great book. And what he's talking about is uric acid and dropping your uric acid levels. But he talked about hemoglobin A1C in there. And I'd recommend everyone read Drop Acid. Just came out last month. A really great, informative book about uric acid and how it's been a sleeper for so many years that functional medicine doctors haven't really given it the due justice that it deserves to monitor and make sure to keep it low enough.
I think there's some interesting research coming out that everybody's red blood cells don't live the exact amount of time. So we maybe can't base everything off of hemoglobin A1C. So the average was that our red blood cells lived about 3 months, but some people's may live 4 months. And so that might not be like a perfect marker for them. So I think it's important to have more than just that marker for blood sugar.
Agree.
Luann asked, I've been taking 1 teaspoon of cod liver oil for a couple weeks and noticed bruising on my arms. Is that from the cod liver oil?
I can't think of why that would be. I don't know. Michelle, do you know about that?
Might be worth testing vitamin A.
Sure, of course, could be. There is a really easy test called the omega-3 index. And it's a finger prick blood test. You just put a drop of blood on a card and send it off. And they tell you your ratio of good fats to bad fats. And the idea of taking oil in general is a good idea. And Michelle's right, it does have vitamin A in it. But you would most likely have to be having some other sources of vitamin A that are taking you way over the limit. But doing an omega-3 index test, inexpensive, easy to do, and give you a good idea of where you stand with your good fats versus bad fats, from which you then determine what kind of dosing is ideal for you right now of the omega-3s.
The NutriPro, the new test from Vibrant America, has the micronutrient panel as well as genetic markers associated with. There's some people that have issues with vitamin A, and they may have genetic SNPs where they store vitamin A from cod liver oil more than somebody else does. So that test could maybe give somebody some more vital information about that. We're all different, right? We all have such genetic uniqueness. Okay.
Kim has a question. I've had elevated thyroid antibodies for 4 years now and not noticing symptoms related to that, at least that I'm aware of. How does one lower the antibodies? What might happen down the road if antibodies are not lowered? Well, you're killing off your thyroid. Elevated antibodies by definition means you're killing off your thyroid. And if you're, why do I say that? Because everybody has antibodies to their thyroid. That's normal, because you have an entire new body every 7 years. Every cell in your body regenerates, every single cell. And the way that happens is that you have to get rid of the old and damaged cells to make room for the new cells. And that's why there's a normal reference range for thyroid antibodies, or myelin antibodies, or brain antibodies, or joint antibodies. There's a normal reference range for all of them. You're supposed to have some, because you get rid of the old damaged stuff and make room for the new. But when you have elevated antibodies, by definition, you're killing off more cells than you're making. And so, Kim, for you, you should read the book, The Autoimmune Fix, because it'll give you the big picture view as to, okay, now I understand what's going on. OMG, now I understand. Okay, what do I do? Okay, it could be foods, it could be toxic chemicals, it could be metals, it could be emotions, it could be electromagnetic. So you're going to get this big picture view, and then you start to dial it down. most likely working with a functional medicine practitioner. By the question, it just shows that you need some basic education first in terms of understanding what it is you have. And, there was that old, I'm going to date myself now, and I grew up in Detroit, and there was a commercial on television when I was growing up, Fram oil filter. And it was a cowboy, and he had his cowboy hat on and just talking to partners, like, you're a partner. Oh, partner, let me tell you about Fram, like that kind of thing. And he held up the oil filter and he said, you can pay me now. And in the background was a tow truck towing away a smoking car. And he said, you can pay me now or you can pay me later. You've got elevated antibodies. There's no question you're killing off your thyroid. Now, for everyone out there, when you read the Automex, and there's also an audio for it, but when you read it, you understand that there are tests you can do. Remember I said earlier that there's a spectrum of autoimmunity. Kim is on the spectrum. She's killing off her thyroid now, killing off thyroid, killing off thyroid, killing off thyroid, but she hasn't killed off enough thyroid yet to have symptoms that she's noticed. Just wait, it'll happen. No question, it'll happen. Brain deterioration, same way. Joint deterioration, skin deterioration, same way. That's why there are tests that you can do to identify where am I on the autoimmune spectrum right now? Where do I have elevated antibodies? Michelle, you want to talk about those tests for a minute, please?
Absolutely. And I just looked up a quote, 43% of patients with Hashimoto'S thyroiditis show intestinal morphology changes used to diagnose celiac disease. That means that if you have antibodies to thyroid, wheat sumac is a non-negotiable. Go to the website right now and order it. You've got to do that test. You've got to do that test because you may think that you are on a gluten-free diet and your gluten-free diet or lifestyle may not be what you think it is. And you may have elevated antibodies. You may have intestinal permeability still. You've got to do sweet GO. You've got to do that test. It's so critically important.
Just like the 43-year-old guy whose body was making antibodies to Heliobacter, those antibodies attack his hair shafts. That same kind is called molecular mimicry. That's what happens when you have food sensitivities or heavy metals, is that the antibodies trying to protect you from the food or the bacteria or the chemicals, they start attacking your own tissue. And with thyroid, just Google BPA, that stands for bisphenol A, a very common plasticizer. Just Google BPA and thyroid. And you'll see how these plastic molecules can bind onto your thyroid because you're drinking water from plastic water bottles and things like that. And these plastic molecules can bind onto your thyroid, and the immune system, trying to protect you, attacks that foreign invader that's sitting on the surface there. And it causes collateral damage to the thyroid itself. Then you make more antibodies to your thyroid to get rid of the old and damaged cells. That is a very, very common mechanism in the development of autoimmune diseases. Very, very common.
The other antibody tests are Cyrex Array 5, and that has 24 different tissue antibodies. So you can see if it's not only thyroid antibodies, but maybe you have antibodies to your gut, antibodies to your brain. And then one of my all-time favorite tests is Neuralzoomer Plus. And that's a really comprehensive test to see if you have antibodies to your brain. It also has a very comprehensive viral panel. And so many of these antibodies or these autoimmune conditions are triggered by viruses. And so you can see if maybe you have any of that going on. But so many people tell me, Michelle, I'm so afraid of that test. I'm so afraid of getting back my results. And I'm like,
no, right.
don't be afraid.
I don't want to know. No, I don't want to know.
This,
I'm going to be in denial. And then one day be surprised when you get a diagnosis. Really? Read the Autoimmune Fix, because when you read it, you understand you can, and this is the language of the researchers, arrest the development of autoimmune diseases. You can, it never goes away, but you can put it in remission, right? So you arrest the development, you stop the development. And so, see, we think that it's bad to have a test result come back where there's a problem. I think it's great, because now at least you know, and now there's something you can do about it.
exactly. I think it's so empowering. It's like, I don't want to head down that path. So now I know, like, I can slam on the brakes, turn this car around, just get off this road entirely. It's like, gives you all this knowledge and power to know what direction you don't want to go.
I think it's because people don't know that you can arrest Hashimoto's or MS. We did this, Marzi and I traveled 7 different countries, and we interviewed world leaders, literally the top people in the world in autoimmune diseases. And then we interviewed the doctors who were following the principles of these researchers. And then we asked the doctors to invite some of their patients in who had done what they had recommended. And when you watch Betrayal, your jaw drops. I just watched it again, and I'm so proud of it. It's so relevant today. It's just unbelievably relevant. When you watch Betrayal, we'll put the link in here for you, everyone. It's free. It's free to watch. And when you watch it, you understand and you get hope, because you see the 44-year-old woman in London who said, I took the tube to come here today. That's the underground train. And I walked the 7 blocks from the train station to this hotel for the interview, and it's not a big deal. But then she teared up and she said, but it is. And then we show you the picture of her in a wheelchair 2 years ago. She can't walk, literally cannot walk at all. She had 8 lesions on her brain. And here she is today, no symptoms whatsoever, 2 lesions left on her MRIs on the brain, reversing lesions in the brain by a functional medicine approach. And you see person after person after person with these devastating diseases, and they talk about how immobilized they are. When you watch Betrayal, you get hope, and you understand that there is a path out of the direction that you're going right now. So we'll put the link in here for you to Betrayal. Please watch this. It'll change your life. It really will. I'm so proud of it. And I texted a bunch of the doctors and said, I'm just watching Betrayal again, and you did such a great job. Thank you so much. And they said, oh, that was really wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. So that's Betrayal. So there's a question here from Sari. And, Michelle, you've got the screen?
Sorry, I was on mute because the dog's being a whiner. Okay, these are the most common food sensitivities with Hashimoto's, and the amazing thing is all of these are Zoomers. So wheat Zoomer, grain Zoomer, dairy Zoomer, egg Zoomer, lectin Zoomer, soy Zoomer, corn Zoomer, and these are included on the lectin Zoomer. So if you can't get your antibodies down, do a Zoomer bundle.
Right.
And these are the chemicals that can impact thyroid function. So screenshot this and check and see, did you just get new furniture, right? Because it's full of fire retardants. Are you still cleaning with all these toxic chemicals, right? Are you living in an area with lots of air pollution?
Right. Comet and Windex and all the other things that we grew up with that we thought were okay because they smell so nice. and they just kill your cells, just inflammation, inflammation, inflammation. And it's the accumulative effect of all of the chemicals we're exposed to today that is the primary trigger in the escalation of the diseases that we're getting today. Now that's a big statement, but you know, that's PhD level statement. But I mean, Blue Cross Blue Shield came out with a study 2 years ago that said between 2013 and 2017, there was a 407% increase in the diagnosis of Alzheimer's in 30 to 44-year-old. 407% increase in 4 years. Why? Because of all these chemicals that people are getting at younger ages. The average woman today, Michelle know better than me, but I know it's over 100 chemicals a day they're putting on their body. I don't know the exact number, I don't remember, but it's a lot. And guys are not far behind. Between the shampoos and the toothpaste and the shaving creams, the underarm deodorants, the lathering soap, we're putting all this stuff on us and it goes in our body. And this stuff accumulates and it's causing more and more inflammation, and your immune system trying to protect you is working overtime.
Mm-hmm. And then people lose chemical tolerance. And then they walk through that aisle with all those chemicals and they feel like they're going to pass out, or they walk through the department store with all the perfumes and they really feel like physically ill. Yeah, it's not worth it.
Agreed.
Are there natural pain relievers for dental fillings for someone unable to have anesthesia? Yikes.
Yeah, there are. Yeah, acupuncturists know that if you can get a child before the first time they go to the dentist, and you put needles in the dental chair right in the corner of this crease here, this is large intestine 4, you just put needles there when they're in the chair, they don't have any pain when the dentist is working on them. And then in the future, they can do same types of acupuncture if there's any more major surgery that has to be done in the mouth. But if you've first experienced pain in the dental chair, the acupuncture doesn't work so well, because we've got memory of that. So it's certainly possible.
It's fascinating.
That really was. Learned that one, 35 years ago or so. And
so is Gio going to have acupuncture before he goes to the dentist?
Yeah. There was an acupuncturist in Chicago. There was a friend of mine and told me that. And so I told some parents that I was treating, and they took their child in to that dentist, very gentle dentist, but using acupuncture. And the child, I didn't follow up with them for years, but as far as I know, never had anesthesia at that point. Anyway. So the other thing that you can do for your mouth, and this goes to the question of root canals that also came in from someone from Hawaii, is change the microbiome in your mouth. The microbiome starts at the mouth and it goes all the way to the other end. Most of the bacteria of the microbiome is in the large intestine, most of it, but it's certainly in the oral cavity. There's over 800 different types of bacteria in the mouth, over 800 different types. And so work on developing a very healthy, fresh microbiome in your oral cavity in your mouth. How do you do that? Well, the easy things that you can begin with, Dentalcidin is the best toothpaste that I've ever experienced. We'll put a link in here for you. It's a toothpaste. It tastes good. Kids like it. There's no sugar in it. It's an antibacterial, antifungal toothpaste. Kills bad bacteria, supports the good bacteria. And then after we brush, We use the Dentalcidin LSF and put a couple of pumps in like a mouthwash and swish it around a little bit. Some recommendations are for a minute to 2 minutes. I don't do that. I do it for about 10 seconds, 15 seconds, and I'm done. I'm not going to stand there and do that. But the recommendation is usually for more than that.
You're so rebellious, Dr. Tom.
There is a limit. Foods that help build a healthy microbiome in your oral cavity and in your digestive tract. First thing are fermented foods. You have a little fermented foods every day. Just a little, doesn't take much. A little teaspoon, maybe a tablespoon a day. You can throw it in your salad, mix it up with all the greens so you can't taste it, but it gets the job done. So you're inoculating with, first with the antibacterials of the toothpaste, and then with the probacteria from fermented foods. Michelle, would you like to add to that?
I love how my mouth feels after I use the Dentalcidin and the Dentalcidin LS. It's seriously, I feel like I just got my teeth cleaned. And you usually only get that feeling once every 6 months, right? And so it's just really so amazing to have that, because it,
without the soreness in the gums from a teeth cleaning.
Right. Because it gets through all that biofilm. Yeah, it's so worth it. I try to encourage my clients to keep it in their mouth for a full 5 minutes swishing, but I have no idea if they're only keeping it in for 15 seconds. I have no idea.
Yeah,
I'm sure the 15 seconds is still good.
That's true confessions.
It's all
the other
good.
way to do it, though, and I think I'll commit to this. I'll try. I'll do it in the shower. Because
that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah. Okay, next question. I'm getting symptoms of exposure. I'm so sorry. I had consults all afternoon. I don't know what his problem is. I'm getting symptoms of exposure to gluten if I just stay in restaurants with my family, just from dust of gluten in the air. Wow.
Well, that's certainly possible. It's called baker's asthma, just from the flour in the air. For bakers, they can have breathing difficulties from a IgE sensitivity to wheat. The way to tell if that's what's going on for you would be to do the wheat zoomer, because it also looks at IgE levels of antibodies to wheat. That certainly is possible from inhaling, but unlikely. It's possible, but unlikely. More likely is an accumulative sensitivity that you've crossed a threshold because of the amount of toxins in your body. And so you're sensitive to smells, more than likely, but I may be wrong on that, but without knowing you more and more history. But the way to differentiate would be to do the wheat zoomer and look for the IgE antibodies to wheat.
Great. Yeah, that would be a really important marker for you. What would cause a senior woman to intensely crave fat, cream, nut butter, etc., when doing a parasite cleanse? It happens every time. Drinking organic cream relieves it.
I don't know.
I don't know either. That's fascinating.
That is. So craving fats, how do craving, when you're killing parasites, what's the mechanism by which you crave fats?
I've always heard of like sugar, usually like sugar for candida, parasites, like all those little critters or fungi love sugar to stay alive, but fat, fascinating.
Yeah, not sure about that one. Sorry, can't help you with that one. Beth is here from Cleveland. Hello, Beth. Barbara's in Washington, Michigan. Yvette's in Maryland. Nayla's watching. Michelle's in Sydney. Hello, Michelle. Thanks for tuning in. Mary's in Tallahassee, Florida. Jared's watching. Corrine is in Brisbane, Australia. Thank you, Corrine. Thank you guys for being here. Makes my day when I know people all over the world are here. It feels good to know that. Annie Ross is watching. I know Annie Ross. That's Michelle's mother. Hi, Annie. Yeah, I'll do that. Mwah. Hi.
Love that mama of mine.
Yes. Lynn's here, Lynn Trock. Thank you both for taking this time with us. You're so awesome. Thanks, Lynn. Lynn's in Arizona, if I remember correctly. Sharon's watching. Luann's here. I've been taking one. We did that question already on cod liver oil. And Kat, you got Kat's question. Faina's here from New York. Aurelia's watching. Michelle Myers watching. Rich King's here. Great. Thank you, everybody. Tell us where you're from. It helps me have a global view when I see where everybody's coming from. Thank you so much.
Okay, here's a question about digestive enzymes. Can taking them for too long cause them to accumulate and cause discomfort? My stool test says I need them, but I'm not sure if I can safely take them forever. Do you recommend a specific one?
Yes. Well, there's a few different concepts in digestive enzymes. The first digestive enzymes are in your mouth, in your saliva. And if you want better digestion of your food, chew it. Most of us chew 3-4 times and gulp down, right? And if you try this experiment with, a spoonful of rice or something, whatever it should be, but chew it 30 times, count 30 times. 1, 2, 3, just count it. And notice how the food starts to taste. It tastes sweeter. And it tastes sweeter because the enzymes in your saliva are breaking down the starches into sugars. That's digestion. So when you can tell that your food is tasting sweeter, that means it's digesting. I have a little fly here that really likes me today. He just keeps wanting to come back and give me kisses on my neck and my ear. It's like, go away, go away. So it starts with chewing. Next is hydrochloric acid in your stomach. Now, if I were to pour hydrochloric acid on this wood table, it eats through the wood. But it can sit in your stomach all day without a problem, all day long, because of the mucus lining in the stomach that's meant to handle hydrochloric acid. But it's called the 40-40. By the age of 40, most of us are only making about 40% of the hydrochloric acid we used to. So our digestion's off immediately because of that. Then pancreatic and gallbladder enzymes. So the ones that we like to use, I'm really happy now with what I've done. With Wheat Rescue, we put some hydrochloric acid in there just to help a little bit. And E3 Advanced Plus, we'll put the links in here for those guys. But there are 2 digestive enzymes that both of them digest the top 8 allergens. 99+% full digestion within 60 minutes of wheat, dairy, corn, soy, egg, peanuts, fish, and shellfish. 99+%. So Marzi and I take 1 E3 and 1 Wheat Rescue anytime we think we need a little help with digestive enzymes, or anytime we think we're eating something that may have some contamination in it. Like we're in a restaurant and they assure us everything's gluten-free, but still we're gonna take 1 Wheat Rescue and 1 E3 just to be on the safe side. Michelle, do you want to add to that?
Yes, I love that you started with chewing. I think that we miss that 30,000 foot view, and that before every meal, just getting into parasympathetic, starting with 3 to 5 deep inhale, exhale, making sure we're not watching the news, not responding to emails. How many times have we been caught up in something and didn't even look at our food? There's just so much that our brain needs to process by looking at our food. and looking at the colors and smelling the smells to be able to release everything that needs to happen with those enzymes to help digest our food. So we need to be present when we're eating. That's really, really important. And then chewing, sometimes, you know, just put up a sign in your dining room or your kitchen that says breathe and chew, so you remember. And then, yeah, you may need enzymes and support. If you can't tolerate the HCl, start with some bitters. You can get Swedish bitters over the counter. You can take those 3 to 5 minutes before a meal, and that can help to stimulate the production. I think once we get into taking enzymes, I do think it's helpful to base it off of labs and to work with a practitioner, because I've seen things go sideways when we're just pilling and praying. But big fan of praying. I worry about all these supplements when we're just taking them and not necessarily if we need them.
Also think about what do chefs put on a plate when they prepare a plate to be served? Parsley. Parsley helps digest your food. So have a little parsley with your meals. It's always going to help. Grow a little parsley in your kitchen window. You know, I mean, it's easy to do. It's a no-brainer kind of plant to grow. It is easy to grow. You just snip some and just put it right in your salads or on top of your fish or whatever. And it always helps to digest. Always going to help at least a little bit.
That's such a great tip, and it's really hardy. It grows all year round in my garden in California, I know, but I don't know if it would do that in Michigan, but it is very hardy.
There's a question from Dawn. Says, do you have any recommendations for a health coach for a cancer patient with stage 4 breast cancer? She's looking for a therapist. I'm recommending she get a health coach that has experience with diet change and also supports her health as well as mental. Yeah. Dr. Nalini Chekhov. She's a friend, and she specializes in training doctors on how to work with cancer patients from a nutritional perspective to support whatever therapies they're using right now, not in place of chemo and radiation, but to support people with what they're going through. And she does do personal consultations. Dr. Nalini Chekhov, Chekov. Bye. Bedtime? Okay. Oh, Gio's saying bye. Oh, Gio's telling me, Dad, you know, it's the hook. He's giving me the hook. You're right. It's 6:10, 6:12 already here. Oh, he doesn't even want to come up here. He's done. Okay. Well, I guess that's it. I've gotten the hook. Thank you everyone for joining us. Michelle, thank you once again. It's always fun to do this. It's just a dance together. It's always so much fun. And see you next month, Michelle, and everyone, we'll see you next week. Thank you so very much.